What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck did I just watch? You are listening to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for joining us, and here's our latest episode. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Watch, where me and John Paul are joined by Betsy and Mike to discuss the movie vibes and maybe a little bit about Kingdom of Crystal Skull. And I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Well, you know, I did not watch it because it was not free and I was not paying for it.
Completely legitimate.
I'm like,
It
You
should
should
be
not
free.
pay money for that.
It should be free.
No,
Yeah,
it
actually,
should
you should
spit
pay
a
for
dollar
market.
out of your TV every time you watch
That's
that
right.
garbage.
Every time Mutt goes across the screen,
It had
get a
like
dollar.
one of the characters go track down George Lucas and Steven Spielberg asking for his money back for that for King of I think it was. I think there was a South Park episode that was that.
Yeah, it was.
Like, I want my $8. When he opens the door, there's like George Lucas and Spielberg like butt raping a stormtrooper, I think.
Jesus, wow. Okay. It's one of those episodes, huh?
Welcome to
South
What the
Park.
Fuck Did I Just Watch?
Yes. Right. And I've already taken this down a trail. Great. So
Man.
Vibes. Vibes is a lovely 1988 movie starring Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum and Peter Falk and Julian Sands. And I loved this movie when it came out. It was one of my favorite things because I was a huge Cyndi Lauper fan to begin with. And for some reason, I had kind of like I don't know, call it like a parent crush on Peter Falk. Like I wanted him to be my dad. From
Fair.
Columbo,
Everybody
and
wants
stuff like
Columbo
that.
to be your dad.
fair. Columbo
And then
and
Julian
Grandpa from the
Sands,
Princess
I mean
Bride.
Warlock, you know.
Yeah. And you forget this movie has so many other people that just randomly show. Steve Buscemi,
Yes.
Yes.
you know, in a
Extremely
very young
valuable.
role. Yeah. So this is even before Airheads.
Yeah, Park Overall, Elizabeth Pena, I believe,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My
Did you
my
show up
crush
randomly?
from when I was a little kid. I loved her.
She's gorgeous.
Batteries Not Included is one of my favorite movies she's ever done.
Oh, wow. I forgot all about that. That's
It's
a hidden gem
one of
right
the
there.
greatest movies ever made, which
I
I
agree.
think we'll eventually touch on this show because
Oh, yeah.
I will make it happen.
I don't like
Teaser.
that.
That's what we call a teaser.
I'm a huge fan of that movie as well. Yeah. All right, but still Vibes. So I don't, Betsy, Mike, have you watched this movie before?
Go ahead,
ahead, Mike.
Betsy. Yeah, I think we talked about this a little off camera. I saw this in the theater when it came out at the Continent. And
Ooh, look at you
not-
name dropping Columbus.
yeah, at the French Market.
There you go. There you go.
And it wasn't because I was a big Cyndi Lauper fan or Jeff Goldblum or Peter Falk. It was there. You know, you didn't go to the movie theater to see a particular movie. You just went and watched whatever was on whenever you got there.
And Loiter.
So yeah, I watched Vibes in '88. I watched it a couple months ago when you said you were doing the episode about it. And I started watching it again today and realized I don't fucking hate myself that much to sit through this again. So I got through the opening credits and the first non-white person to die. I just sort of gave up and said, I can't do this anymore. So here we are. Betsy, I'm sorry. I jumped all over you. Go ahead.
You're fine. I literally didn't know this film existed until 4 years ago. I went through a big 80s phase where I decided to go back and watch everything from the 80s. I don't know what happened, but like I was devouring anything 80s I could find. And my sister-in-law was like, oh, like Vibes. And I was like, what is this? What are you talking about? She's like, with Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum. And I was like, hold please. What are you talking about? So I'm sitting there and I literally bought the DVD while we were talking.
Oh,
And have since watched it about once every 3 months since.
oh my God.
I love Cyndi Lauper. I love Jeff Goldblum, and I especially love 80s awkward Jeff Goldblum movies. I'm a fan of Earth Girls Are Easy. And
Yes.
so I'm like, this is in his super awkward, like, I don't know what to do with my hands phase, and I love it.
Yet there is a lot of awkward touching in this period for him. You know, he's always putting his hands on people's shoulders and giving them that weird massage. I don't know. It's super awkward.
Awesome scene. I don't know if you remember at the beginning of this movie when they're like leaving the Psychic Institute.
Oh yeah, with Julian Sands.
And just saying goodbye to him, and there's like one of them puts one hand on one of their shoulders, and the other one puts it on the other shoulder, and then they go up with the hands, and then they do the thing where they do the hand gets on top.
Yeah, it's like this weird, uncomfortable power struggle between the two of them.
Yeah, clearly deliberately done, and just so
Well, this vehicle was definitely written for him because of the awkward touching, because that's his whole thing. He's got to touch something.
Ironically, it was not written for him originally. It was not. It was written for the original Nick Deasy, which was Jeff Goldblum's character, was supposed to be a short man. And like when they finally cast Jeff Goldblum, they had to do a bunch of rewriting.
Wow, because this is so fits him so perfectly.
And Aykroyd was actually approached for it. But it turned out that I guess he is not a Cyndi Lauper fan and refused to be in the movie if she was going to be the co-star.
She's a national treasure, man.
I know. I don't know what was wrong with Dan Aykroyd. I hope he's come to Jesus since then. I don't know. It's very much hurt me. I was like, no, Dan Aykroyd, how could you not like Cyndi? But also, I read that Cyndi Lauper in her memoir said that she did not enjoy working with Jeff Goldblum either. So who knows? Maybe it was just the Cyndi Lauper thing.
That's it, exactly.
Awkward.
It was that dance scene.
So there was later a scene when they're climbing up the Andes, and she slips and Jeff Goldblum palm up, like pushes her ass forward, and then they both get like these just cheese eating smiles. Like he's like, oh, and she's like, mm-hmm. Even if they didn't get along, there was just so much like good chemistry in that moment where you're like, they had to get along so much.
So if Cyndi Lauper could have won an Oscar for this movie, then she could have had what do they call it when you win an Oscar, a Tony and a Grammy?
EGOT.
Yeah, she could have gotten the EGOT.
Mm-hmm.
So she's almost there. She's almost there with this.
Nobody was going to win an Oscar for this.
I know. But this is also her first movie that she did, not counting whatever she did with
I think it was her first acting
wrestling.
Role, period.
Well, you can kind of. I mean, she acted in the WWF.
Yeah.
Or now WWE stuff.
Yeah, she used to do a lot of stuff with wrestlers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
fair, but I mean, as for like
feature length movie,
film acting, this was their first movie.
So in my what the fuck did I just watch bingo card, I had Vibes and Oscar in the same sentence as one of my blocks. So I will gladly mark that off now.
Should have distributed it to us. Look at that.
We should just distribute
it
and put it on Facebook for all of our friends.
Nobody else is playing.
Right? I always win, no matter how few blocks I have.
This will be our new post that we put it on Facebook. Let's play a new game. Watch our podcast and see if you get bingo. All
right, I'm gonna help everybody out. Citizen Kane. Does anyone have Citizen Kane as a square?
I feel like you should have said Rosebud instead, though. No.
That's the free space in the middle.
I mean, can I find a way to try go back and do the 7 degrees of whatever, and then we can do Citizen Kane somehow to this movie and my movie knowledge, maybe.
I'm pretty sure at some point we can link, Val Kilmer to Marlon Brando, and it'll work. It's fine.
Peter Falk, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
So. There we go.
Yeah, again, Vibes. So we're
Vibes.
You can just tell we enjoy talking about movies and TV way too much. That's kind of the problem with our show. But yeah. So the plot, for those of you who have not watched it, is basically this. Cyndi Lauper, Jeff Goldblum's characters, which is Sylvia Pickell and Nick
Pickle.
Deasy.
Her name is Pickle.
He says Pickell in the end. I think it's hilarious. So
I know. Pico.
It's Pickell.
Which is introducing herself to the guy, the ambassador. But anyway, sorry. So they're both psychics. Cyndi's character is a medium. she has a spirit guide that she talks to. And Jeff Goldblum is psychometry. He can touch things and know very intimate details about it. So they're at a study that's being run by Julian Sands' character, who actually his character's name I completely forgot because they like mentioned it 3 times and I don't think about it much. Because Julian Sands is always Julian Sands, no matter what he plays, in my opinion. But it holds true in this movie. But at any rate, the whole plot centers around the fact that him and Peter Falk's character, Harry Buscafusco,
Yeah.
are trying to track down the city of gold in Ecuador. And Julian Sands' character knows what the city of gold really is. Peter Falk thinks it's a literal city of gold, or room of gold, room of gold. So Peter Falk cons these two into going to Ecuador to find his lost son, who doesn't exist. And though originally Julian Sands tries to recruit both of them to go to Ecuador, actually he really just tries to recruit Jeff Goldblum, I believe, but it doesn't really specify that that's what he wants. But they end up going. They end up finding out that Harry does not in fact have a son, and that it is the room of gold. They're going after. Hilarity ensues. And they find the room of gold, which is actually a very tacky looking pyramid of light that's just tons of psychic power accumulated in this pyramid that if you could tap into, you can do whatever you want. You destroy your enemies at a distance, whatever you want to do. And so yeah, that's the whole main plot of this movie. And the rest that's just filled in is just silly character interactions, and I am endlessly entertained by it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I maybe I skipped a part. I did not catch this hilarity that you're saying ensued.
I mean, the awkwardness of both Cyndi Lauper and Goldblum is, I mean, I think it's pretty funny. Just their mannerisms and the facial expression.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On Cyndi Lauper on certain scenes, I'm just like, wow. And I mean, I know that's not her real voice, but I absolutely love that voice that she uses in this movie. Yep. I don't know why. I just get a good kick out of it. I rewatched it.
It's so funny. Like she looks at that one guy and goes, aside from your face.
I mean, I rewatched it and just giggled as I was just also cooking dinner. I had it on, and just her voice just made me laugh and smile. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think if I remember my first time seeing this, a babysitter brought it over once on VHS, and we watched it. And I might have had a crush on my babysitter, but after I watched this movie, I didn't have a crush on my babysitter anymore. I had a crush on Cyndi Lauper.
Fair.
So yeah, that was my first crush on Cyndi Lauper. And then I didn't put 2 and 2 together later on when I saw like videos with her, because I'm like, she's got blonde hair here, but she's got red hair in the other one. I didn't put it 2 together when I was younger. And then I remember my older brother going, that's the same girl that you liked from that weird movie that the babysitter made you watch. And I'm like, no, it's not. And yes, it was. So, yeah.
You guys might appreciate it. So originally the movie was described as romancing the Ghostbusters in the Temple of Doom.
It fits all of those things. 100%.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Romancing yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the scene at the beginning when they're being tested, their psychic abilities and things, reminds me so much of the beginning of Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah,
when they're just messing with the guys. What do you see here? A star with squiggly lines.
3 squiggly lines.
Well, that brings up what's his name, Ingo Spedlin.
Yeah.
So annoying. He's the one that was reading the cards.
Yes.
And it screwed up the guy's game of 3-card Monty, which honestly though, I thought that was hilarious. So at the beginning, you don't know what's going on. You just see this guy walking through the streets of New York, basically, before you get to the Psychic Research Institute.
Right, Psychic Research.
And, there's street vendors, one's like, strike out the monkey, and there's other things going on. You got a guy playing 3-card Monty, and he's like, come on, give me your money, find the 9, And of course, this guy's psychic, so he's like, it's there, and he takes all the money. He's like, oh, you cheated. And he starts yelling at him. I'm like, But 3-card Monte, you can't actually win in reality.
Right.
The game is a cheat. It's a street hustle. So,
Right.
yeah, it's like, oh, you can't really feel that bad for the guy.
Right. No.
Like, oh no, he got hustled by somebody else.
I kind of wish
know,
some
egos are
other
quite-
actor had been in Julian Sands' character, because the second you see him, he's a bad
He's
guy.
evil.
Yeah, he just has that look about him. You're like, I'm not approachable, but I'm fuckable, and I'm going to stab you in the back. That's just not to say vibe, but that's the vibe he gives off.
I think I've ever seen him where he was not technically a bad guy was arachnophobia.
Yeah, you're right.
A neutral character. He was neither good nor bad. He was just there.
But you still wanted to punch him in the neck. It's just there's something about that guy.
And fuck him while you're doing it.
Yes.
He wasn't a bad guy-ish in Ocean's 13.
Oh, I barely remember that movie.
Yeah, he had a small role in there. So he wasn't technically bad. So
the fact that you have to put an adverb in there.
I mean, he worked for the bad guy, so he was a henchman. He was the head henchman. So yeah.
Oh, head henchman. Oh,
Head
yeah.
henchman. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say that puts him into the bad guy, Karen.
It kind of does, John Paul. That's still, the head henchman is the bad guy.
I guess.
Aligned to the bad guyness. So
Right?
I know.
I mean, audience judges, you could weigh in.
I guess so.
Yeah,
You work for the evil
what you think of.
I mean,
again, bad guy.
Someone who loved Warlock as a kid and watched that movie way too much and all of its really bad sequels, I still really think he's a good guy.
2 words, my man.
Yeah.
Boxing Helena.
Oh, there you go. Not a bad guy in that movie. No.
Wow. All right.
I mean, really bad. I remember sneaking into that movie.
I guess, I can't hate on this movie because it is fun. And something Jenny and I were talking about, the way it was shot and blocked almost looks like either the writer or director at some point wrote or directed for stage. Just because the way the characters enter and exit rooms and cross over each other. So it was either written for stage or they just wanted to wrap this up so quickly they didn't want to move the cameras. So they were doing those weird shots where where Jeff Goldblum is in the hotel room and the girl he picks up in the bar turns out to be an assassin. Her weird death scene is just so poorly blocked that it looks like it should be happening on some high school stage somewhere. It's just terrible, but it also keeps them from having to move the camera too. So I don't know. It's like somebody probably directed for TV where your set is so small that you have to get creative with the spaces that you use. There was another scene. It was the Steve Buscemi shot where Cyndi Lauper tells him, "Give me a minute and I'll talk to," what was her name? Louise, the ghost.
Louise, yeah.
And so he doesn't just walk off. He just sort of walks behind her and is picking up used tickets and looking at them to see if he can find a winner. So they couldn't give him anything to do because it's a very short amount of time. So they can't have him completely leave. But at the same time, they can't angle another shot, probably because they have it set up on the chairs in front of them. That's a lot of union money to pick that shit up and move it. So I'm sure they were trying to just save a buck here and there. So they're like, just go stand over there and make some sort of action so we know that you exist while she has, the focus of the camera on her.
Wasn't a heartbreaking scene though.
Oh God, I felt so terrible at the end of that scene. Just
so bad. Like you knew it was coming too. Like you knew something like that was coming because Steve Buscemi does a really great job of looking like he's lying when he's trying to pretend like he's not lying in the scene. Like, oh no, I didn't come back just for you to give me some winners. I want to be with you. And you're like,
And they don't even make it to the stairs, before he dumps her.
I know.
Doesn't say anything to her. Here's his girlfriend waiting for him, and he's just
Right.
walking with her like he's gonna go to the bar with Cyndi, and then
That was so awful.
out
And
comes the
she,
girlfriend like, "Hey, I'm waiting here."
Cyndi Lauper does have that just completely dejected, perfect look on her face too. Like, I should have seen this coming, but I fell for it again, and here we are.
Well, even more than like, because literally her spirit guy was like,
I was saying,
you know, this
Louise
is
was right.
he's like, don't do it. This guy is trash. And it just, yeah, completely. She just stands there, her face melts, her posture just kind of melts and stiffens
Yep.
at the same time. And when he's like, no hard feelings, it's like, no feelings at all. You know, and you just want to cry for her. You're like, oh no, oh honey, oh no.
Come here.
I know, you just hug her so bad. It's like, no,
Papa
you know,
Lou Albano will take care of you. Come.
That's right, Papa Lou Albano.
I mean, it makes it even more sense because when you see her in the scene with Julian Sand's character when they're in the cafeteria from the research institute and stuff, and she's like, "Move in with me." You're like, "What's like?" He jump, and then you like see what else she had in her, you know, backlog there, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, okay."
Yep, she was a very,
sense.
very sympathetic character. That is for sure.
Absolutely.
Which made it even more fun when she whipped out that shotgun on Harry Buffett's when he shows up in her apartment. You're like, oh,
Right?
girl got some claws. It's there. But Betsy, I'm surprised you have not mentioned Cindy's wardrobe yet.
Oh, it's coming. I want
Well, let's go
every
for it. Tell us about the wardrobe.
piece of this wardrobe. Every piece. Seriously. She looks amazing. Everything they put her in, even though it's ridiculous, because it's absolutely ridiculous. I want every piece of it. That one pastel 2-piece with the crop top that she wears, I would wear anywhere. The only thing that doesn't make sense is that pink dress that she wears down to dinner. She put that on over the biggest underwear I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm like, there is no way in hell that did not show.
Like 1940s underwear. She have some like tap shorts on, basically.
Yeah, I'm like, there is no way in hell. No way that that's underwear were not showing under that dress. That dress was skin tight. You couldn't have anything under that thing. Whew.
Yeah, which is funny because she was asked about if the clothes were similar to her own wardrobe, which actually when you watch the movie as a kid, you kind of thought that they might have just been Cindy's clothes. But she had answered with, I'd never wear clothes like this. This stuff is way too subdued for me. And I'm like, okay, no, I guess that makes sense too.
That is totally fair. All right. Now is when I admit that I have a Pinterest board that's basically just all Cyndi Lauper's clothes from the 1980s. And it's just all out there. It's a lot of vintage mixed with like modern. It's insane. So big, so colorful. She knew how to wear clothes. And it is a little subdued. It really is a little subdued. That last dress that she wears is honestly like, it's just gorgeous with that back, that open back, and then the high neck.
That blue one, yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, I want to play with her back. If I were Jeff Goldblum, I'd just be touching her all over, which he does with his big awkward hands.
With no consent, nary to be found.
Not really talked about, really.
Not even a little
Really
bit.
see a lot of forced touching happening there either. You know, like the one time where he reaches out to help her, it's not like he's going to grab her ass. He literally was seeing her stumble and just put his hand out like in the scene.
Oh, come on, man.
It wasn't made, if you watch it, it wasn't made to look like he was like, I'm gonna go grab her ass. Because you know,
well, maybe it's because she's such a small person and his hands are big. I mean, it looked like he could have just picked her up and palmed her by her ass all the way up the mountain.
He probably could have.
I mean, honestly, that dance scene when he just picks her up and is like whipping her around.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have to walk at all.
Right.
He was basically dancing with a 2-year-old.
Yep.
The dance scene was both beautiful and hilarious at the same time. It's so funny because it was well done, except for the blocking of it, as you noted, Mike. But like, you know, but it was so silly at the same time.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. The blocking of it was ridiculous because I'm like, if you'd have tracked that right, it was a gorgeous tango.
Mm-hmm.
But because they did not track it correctly, it was awkward as all hell. And it was just him and his big hands holding onto her head. So,
okay, that brings up a question that I wanted to ask this group in particular, just because you're so opinionated.
Oh, just us, not you though.
Is Jeff Goldblum actually a good actor, or is he just watchable being himself?
I think it's more he's watchable being himself, but I do think he also can act. That makes any sense. Like, I think in every movie, Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum, but he is emoting a scene.
Yes.
Does that make any sense?
Yes. Okay. Because and yes, he always plays himself, but he's just so likable, and you cannot take your eyes off of him. Just and like you said with the costuming, he's in like these muted greens and grays the entire movie, yet he's always the focus of your attention. Like, what is that goofball going to do now? You can't take your eyes off that guy. But I was trying to think back through all of his other movies. I'm like, when has he not been just Jeff Goldblum in a hat, Jeff Goldblum in a vest, Jeff Goldblum in a suit?
So
You know-
I should say this. I don't think there's ever been a time where he has not been Jeff Goldblum, but there was one time where I found him very unlikable as a character. This really awful, and you could just tell where my taste in movies is just awful. But it was a movie called Thank God It's Friday, which I believe was out in the early 80s. It was set in a disco.
Oh wow.
And Jeff
Okay.
Goldblum plays like the skeeziest, I think he was the owner of the disco, even just the skeeziest rich
I will have to check that
douchebag
out
of
then.
like
Okay.
trying to like just get it kind of.
I'm
And
really,
you were like, no.
I'm
so
really
bad.
trying to think of a movie where he's not just Jeff Goldblum.
Right.
And I'm vastly failing because I was like, The Fly? Nope.
No,
Yes,
still
he's
Jeff
Jeff
Goldblum.
Goldblum until he starts peeling off his fingernails, and then
Yeah.
he's Jeff Goldblum. without
Hotel
fingernails.
Artemis, still Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Jurassic Park, absolutely.
Park's
He's
still
Jeff
definitely
Goldblum
Jeff
the hell out
Goldblum.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, John Paul, your thought on that?
I'm trying to think, because I see you guys are talking about him acting, and I think it's mainly he's one of those actors that acts just with his face. I mean, because his body is so awkward, it's all facial expressions. If he couldn't like do weird faces,
Right.
you know, that then we wouldn't say, "Oh, that's Jeff Goldblum."
Inflection. I wouldn't just say it's just face and tonal inflection is
I was
basically.
gonna
Yeah.
say his voice too, because that life finds a way, and it's that pause, that weird like slow drip of a pause in the middle there that makes that a really good delivery, whereas anybody else would have just been like, life it finds a way, and he made it weirder than that.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so if you watch his show on Disney,
Which I love.
I've watched
I did too, but
Meaning
that's
to,
how
I
he
decided
talks in that though. Like
That-
when he's
that is-
interviewing people,
That's
it
who he
seems
is.
like mid-sentence he's trying to find the rest of his thought. You know, there are those weird breaks, like I'm going to start talking
Shatner-esque moment.
and then catch up.
Seriously, it's kind of, it's a different version of the Shatner pause,
Yes.
Mhm.
only it's a more charming version of the Shatner pause.
Right?
I'm trying to think of that movie that he was in with Mimi Rogers in the 90s. Oh gosh.
Man, that's
I
a
wouldn't
deep
even know
cut. Holy shit.
I want to say Shooting Elizabeth. Maybe. I don't know. He wasn't really much himself in that one. And then the movie Deep Cover, if you've ever seen that.
I have not.
He's a true villain in that. And he's not Jeff Goldblum. He is a fucking asshole. And I mean it in the meanest of ways, because he is a mean son of a bitch in that movie. And you're just like, this is not Jeff Goldblum. This is a mean motherfucker who's just going to kill anybody because he doesn't like them. And it's kind of drug dealing type movie. It's I'm trying to think. If I remember right, I think it might be Tupac that was in it. I know it's Lawrence Fishburne is in that.
I
Yeah.
have to look this movie up.
I was gonna say I'm gonna have to find it, because
Yeah, he's really, really different. Maybe it's not Tupac, but I know it's Lawrence Fishburne in it. And it's not what you would say Jeff Goldblum.
good to
Yeah.
know. I will check it out.
It's a really dark character. It's also one of those movies that I think when it came out, people just kind of lumped it in as like it's gangster movie because it had a gangster rap soundtrack, and so it got overlooked. And then just recently, IFC and Criterion just released a Criterion edition of it on Blu-ray.
Oh.
So they went back and realized, yeah, this is a really thought-provoking movie and a deep movie. And just, it's kind of like, do you ever see the movie Crash, not the one with the sex people that like to get in car accidents, but the one with Sandra Bullock, Crash.
Sadly, I have never seen the one with Sandra Bullock, but I have seen the one about people having sex in cars.
Yes, that's the James Spader one, not that one. But the other one that got kind of overlooked also, as people thought it was just kind of like a rap kind of agenda type movie, but it's a really deep, provoking movie. No, Goldblum was not in that one, so I'll get back on track. We're gonna stay on track. That's our goal.
It's fine.
Yeah. But I don't know, this movie, what surprises me, as much as like, I know Jenny, you really enjoy it, Betsy, you enjoyed it as well, after the fact, it's not like, if you pull up a list of cult classics, this is not on there.
No.
And it surprises me because it feels like it has all of the elements of what is a cult classic. If you put a cult classic in a box, obscure 80s Jeff Goldblum, I mean, random
pop star,
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So just, it has all of those ticks and it's not there. And for the longest time, I mean, I'm surprised, Betsy, you could find it on DVD. It became out of print. And then Mill Creek just released it on Blu-ray, and it's a really good transfer of it. It actually looks a lot better than anything I've seen of it. But I don't know. It just surprises me that it's not a cult classic. It should be. Maybe it is because of the directing. Like Mike was saying, the direction in this, you're right, it's very staged. I mean, I don't know the whole background. It might be the director's first film.
It was his first film, the director's first film. I think when I looked it up, the director had only done TV shows prior to this.
Okay, well then yes, that makes 100% sense
right there.
And it does fit. It also fits that subgenre that was very popular in the mid 80s, which was like Romance in the Stone, where you had a comedy adventure, Solomon's Key, even some of the Indiana Jones. I mean, that there were so many movies that kind of fit that kind of like adventure and romance. Romance in the Stone, those. Jewel of the Nile. I can just keep going. So this fits with that.
The most awkward romance you've ever seen on film, up until Destination Wedding.
Yeah.
It's just like, these are two people, like, and it might have been because they had no actual chemistry and they didn't really like each other in the filming, but I mean, like, you knew that they were going to end up together because the movie made that very clear, but you also were watching these two like, but why would they?
Right? It's not like you were rooting for them. Like, oh, I hope they can get through this awkward phase and end up a couple. It's like, just find your magic triangle and part ways, please.
Well, yeah. It's true. If we were to make this movie now and again, I would just be happy if Cyndi Lauper's character was just like, fine, I can live on my own. I'm happy just the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's my only big problem with this movie, is I felt like they forced the romance, and in a lot of the movies in the 80s, Jeff Goldblum, it seemed like to me, now rewatching a lot of it, it's like he has to be in love with his co-star, and then in real life he's in love with his co-star, which is, Gina Davis comes to mind.
Definitely Gina
I
Davis.
think that might have been the only one, though. I mean,
I think there may be others,
It's like he didn't hit him. I don't think him and the woman from Transylvania 65000 hit it off.
I don't know, but it's
Transylvania 65000 was the vampire was Gina Davis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which might be why he didn't hit it off with his female co-lead.
There you go.
Mystery solved.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, the romance in this movie, it was just very just weird.
They didn't.
Yeah.
The thing is, it felt like they were setting it up, but it also didn't feel like they were setting it up well. Does that make sense? Like it would have made more sense if they're at the beginning, she's hitting on him from the start, because she hits on the doctor.
Right.
She wasn't hitting on him. Now he thought that she was hitting on him at the beginning. She was like, yeah, no.
Right. She was not interested in him whatsoever. So I think it would have made more sense if from first sight, she had been hitting on him. But that's not what we see. She hits on the doctor. He already has a girlfriend, which we know.
Which was weird, that whole thing.
Right. That whole thing of him touching her panties and being like, he's a hockey player.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing where she was like, I should have burned those. Bitch, you should have. You know what he can do.
That's like the worst superpower ever.
Right.
It's PCP. It's PCP.
Okay, fine. In that example, yeah, that's a handy thing. But I mean, how could you ever have a relationship with somebody? It's like, yeah, I totally want to have sex with you. However, you need to go in that room and get completely naked and put all of your clothes far away from the bed so I don't accidentally step on them. And then we shall make love.
Right.
And does it work with any part of him or literally just his hands?
Yes, because if he touches her elbow or her shoulder or whatever,
this demands a sequel.
Right?
Vibes is.
I'll never hear those words out of your mouth.
and then that's how Cyndi Lauper gets her Oscar.
Yes.
We can write it because I can screenplay as well as this.
Yes, you can probably.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. I think your cat could fucking write better than this movie.
Yeah.
Just get some fridge magnets, throw them on the floor, and say, have at it.
But yeah, I mean, the romance was so not set up that they even comment in the movie about how it's not set up. I mean, that scene when she's in the tent with Joe Goldblum, he's like, when did you decide you liked me? Right. And she's like, well, you saved my life. And he's like, oh, okay, well, so I'm a pity fucker.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and even the whole thing where it's like, oh, instead of pretending like they're together, they pretend that they're siblings.
Right.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
It's you know,
Bedlam comes along and then they pretend like they're together.
Right. Again, this movie's an hour and a half long.
For the sake of that, the ambassador that Cyndi was trying to get. So obviously it wouldn't make sense if they were pretending lovers in that situation. But when Ego Stedman comes along, they do pretend they were lovers in that situation, and it still didn't quite set up chemistry well.
It was still obvious that she wasn't interested in him. She was very interested in the ambassador guy.
Right.
Very interested. And she was definitely making fun of him in his hotel room because he had all that water. Which he deserved.
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum's neurotic character shows up in South America with tons of dehydrated food and a case full of water so he doesn't get sick. It's packing. Yeah. Which nowadays you wouldn't be able to afford to do this.
I was going to say, can you imagine how expensive that was? Oh my God.
So this movie is, I believe, streaming on Prime still?
It's on Prime. Yeah. If you have a Prime account, you can watch it for free.
I actually own a copy, so
As do I.
I own it, but I did actually watch it on streaming because it was easier than taking out my DVD.
So anybody who wants to give this a whirl, like I said, I'm shocked that it's not a cult classic.
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining. Is there some cringe moments now looking at it? Most definitely. But I would recommend people give this one a whirl, So
absolutely.
So, but here's where Kingdom of the Crystal Skull comes into it. If anybody really wants to torture themselves. So much as how this is described as romancing the Ghostbusters and the Temple of Doom, I think that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are like, the fourth Indiana Jones, maybe we revive the Star Wars stuff. Let's revive the Indiana Jones stuff. plot. There's that shitty movie from the 80s called Vibes. Nobody watched. Let's just take that plot, but we'll alter it a little. It'll be, instead of the Room of Gold, it'll be like, the City of Gold. We'll make it El Dorado. And instead of just like, psychic energy, we'll make it psychic aliens. Things like that. And we'll have them rock through South America. And nobody will notice.
Jenny noticed.
I was hunting for the connection when you said that, and immediately, just broad brushstrokes. I'm like, okay, there are white people that are just automatically assuming anything made of gold in South America is theirs by default. So, those two streams are running that same course.
Fuck the indigenous population.
Right?
I don't need that shit. We do.
Exactly. And they're what is it? Kate Blanchett plays a psychic in Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's that connection too, and the fact that it read like it was written on a dare, and not a lot of thought went into the entire plot overall.
And negates all of the other Indiana Jones movies.
Well, I don't think it actually negates the other Indiana Jones movies. At any rate, but I'll get
everything
to that.
Is aliens. I mean, everything is now aliens. Just saying.
I didn't get that, but maybe, and that, I don't know how that would negate any other point though. Everything is Christian.
Well, I meant in the sense that I don't know. It turned into a science fiction movie, and it made me upset. But that's just me.
I thought they always were science fiction movies, but
they're adventure.
Ark of the Covenant.
No, I guess so. I guess
The Magic Stones.
That shit's real, okay? It's practically a documentary.
The Holy Grail. It's not really science-based movies, okay? Nor were they based on archaeological.
Fair enough, but let's go back to your point on the vibes.
Speaking of which, when you said Ark, I really got the feeling that Spielberg has no what's a good way to put this? No respect whatsoever for his fans, because as they're in that big warehouse, Area 51 warehouse full of boxes to find the super magnetic mummy.
Skull,
and as they're leaving,
magnetic mummy,
there's half of the screen is filled with a picture of the Ark in a broken box. So it's like Spielberg's over there going, Easter egg, dummies, Easter egg. He can't be subtle about it. He's got to throw it right in your face. And the hat at the very end, like, the doors fly open and the hat literally falls into Shia LaBeouf's lap. Like, this is so heavy-handed. You'd think as a racist asshole, he would have given his fans
that it originally was supposed to end it with Shia LaBeouf having the hat, and that like Harrison Ford was like, no, I just took the hat.
As well he should. I would rather watch an 80-year-old Harrison Ford play Indiana Jones and just sort of mumble than
you're going to get that. That's the next Indiana Jones movie that's supposed to come out.
Throw that on the scale, and on the opposite side, throw Shia LaBeouf, doing anything.
Yeah.
And I will take Harrison Ford every day of the week. He's very charismatic. He plays that character to a T. I mean, and as bad as Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls is, I like watching him play that character.
Yeah.
Mutt. His name is Mutt.
No, not watching him play that character. Watching Indiana Jones play Indiana. No, and I agree. So that's the only thing that makes that movie palatable is Harrison Ford. I forgot the woman who played Marion's name, the actress. The interaction between them is great.
Yeah.
It's still wonderful. And I think that was kind of the problem, though. They just wanted a vehicle to bring these characters back together and then throw in some tropes from the old movies. Right. And I'm like, how about make one with a good plot, though? To me, when I watched it, I just kept seeing vibes. Even Oxley being somewhat insane, like the guy in the hospital who was just dripping out words that weren't making a lot of sense. Right. It all just seemed like they just really blatantly pulled the plot from this movie and thought nobody would fucking notice.
Because you're the only one who noticed.
Jenny noticed.
By the
And
way,
now,
Fans
thanks to
remember.
this episode,
Be honest,
your millions
you all
of
watch the
followers
movies
are
yourself.
coming
Tell
for
me
you.
what you think. When Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is streaming free somewhere, do not pay money for that movie, please.
I watched it on, I don't know, maybe it's not free. Paramount Plus is where I watched it.
Yeah, that's your subscription.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're already paying for a subscription for something and it's on that, you're okay.
Like I was
Yeah.
hoping that it would be on one of the 19 other things that I pay for a subscription to, but it wasn't on any of those. So I was like, well, then I'm not watching it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I do own the Blu-ray box set
Of course.
and
you
have
do.
not double dipped yet and bought the 4K because I haven't pulled that trigger.
Inevitably, at some point, I'm probably going to own the box set because I want the rest of them, and that one's going to come with it. And
That's right.
So
That
and
one
then
never
I'll-
gets open.
I was going to say, and that one will stay in its little closed box. And somebody will be like, "Why didn't you ever take this out of the plastic?" And I'm like, "No,
What's in the plastic?
absolutely not."
You know
Never
what
did.
really made me mad? Because I kind of liked where they were sort of going with the whole Cold War and Russian atomic bombs. And, they bring in McCarthyism into it. And then you ended up with Vibes. The fuck?
Right? Yes.
What
Again.
the fuck happened there?
No one saw Vibes. It's not a cult hit. So they said, let's
What a
steal
twist.
this movie. Let's
It's
steal
not
it.
Roswell. If you wanted to do fucking aliens, you're already at fucking Area 51.
Mm-hmm. So
No.
what they did was they took a spreadsheet of all the movies that came out in the 80s that had to do with psychics, sorted inversely by box office numbers, and picked whatever was on the top line. They're like, no, but there are 8 people that could sue us for this. Let's go with this.
Why not redo the
Actually,
Dream Team
at
then?
least a little bit over dollars.
Dream Team.
Do the Dream Team. That's the best psychic movie. No, I'm sorry. Second Sight with Balky and John Larroquette.
You picked on
Oh.
Second Sight. I love that movie.
I'm not. I'm saying I love that movie too. Pick that movie.
Maybe we should have paired that with this. Watch Second
All right.
Sight and Vibes.
So let's give our
I
final
might have
thoughts.
passed out though.
All right, Jenny. Let's
I'm sorry.
let our guests give their final thoughts on Vibes. Who wants to go first?
Betsy, please.
All right. Vibes is a romp. Is it good? No. Is it fantastic? Absolutely. It will entertain. You will laugh. Even if you're just laughing at it, you will laugh. Appreciate Jeff Goldblum's big awkward hands. He touches many things. People slap his hands on fish multiple times.
Oh, I forgot that part.
It's wild. It's a wild ride. And yeah, Cyndi Lauper's accent, she made a choice. It was a big one. And I like it. Did she do it well? No, but it was really fun. And she just went for it. It's a fun movie. And Peter Falk just oozes charisma the whole time. I'm like, I could watch a whole movie of just him trying to convince people to go to Argentina.
It's like Columbo as a con man. It was great.
I'm like, I'll just watch him for like hours. That's great. All right, that's all.
Okay. It's free, and there are far worse things you could do for 90 minutes.
Truth.
Go, Peter Falk.
You may ask yourself, why does Mike keep coming back on the show? It's because he just can't get enough of us, truthfully.
That is true.
It's you know what, and I brought this up when you guys were messaging. I hate myself so much, and you just feed into that. They're like, we want to shovel you with garbage, and then talk about it. I'm like, when and where, baby? I am there for this. No, one of these days you're gonna find something that you hate that I absolutely love, and will become the biggest fan, and just write, fan fiction about. It's not Vibes, but I will find it someday.
Now I want to
Betsy and I are going to write the sequel to Vibes, so
That's right.
I'm
Vibes
gonna write
are
the sequel. We're gonna call it More Vibes.
Not Vibe Hard.
Vibes to vibe harder.
Okay, so here are my
Vibes is
final
Silicon
thoughts on
Valley.
Vibes.
John Paul, what's your final
My final thoughts. It's still an adorable movie to watch. And again, that goes back to my crush of Cyndi Lauper and my babysitter. And I'll now divulge her first name. Her name was Betsy.
It wasn't me. I
plot
think we're close to the same age.
Yeah. So yes, my old babysitter Betsy introduced me to this wonderful movie that I even borrowed her VHS tape over and over again.
I love this story. Why can't we just
So-
do an episode about Jean Paul and his crush on his babysitter?
Oh, my babysitter, yeah. But again, after watching Vibes, I loved the Vibes more.
I don't know.
Cyndi Lauper more.
Channel, Mike.
No, I'm a weird little kid and I'm weird adult, so awkwardness at its finest moments. Are the reeks? I think they're red now. But yeah, it's a fun movie. Yeah, Goldblum's just being Goldblum. Weird faces, weird things come out of his mouth, and you're just like, okay. And Julian Sands. I mean, you can't go wrong with that guy. That's just my opinion, but yeah, I recommend people watch it. Enjoy it.
You know my
Jenny?
thoughts. I think it's fun. It's super fun movie. It's nothing about it has merit. It's just entertaining to me. It's hilarious. It's fun. I like the character interactions. Great comedic timing, in my opinion. And also, because I'm very weird myself, like in watching like Cyndi Lauper's character go march up the Andes Mountains, just wearing her street clothes, because that's actually what I do. I just go hike anywhere and I'm wearing like a skirt with pantaloons under and a tank top, and I don't give a fuck because shit'll snag and you'll pull it off, and I'm wearing layers anyway. So it's just, it was one of the things where it wasn't, I wouldn't say the most positive female character, but it had great moments where this woman truly is herself in these movies. And, you know, when push comes to shove, she does stand up for herself, you know,
Absolutely.
like even in the tent where like Jeff Goldblum's just like being a complete shit to her. And she's like, just fucks with him back, you know? Yeah, I want you badly. Yeah, I can't, like, you know, I imagine my life without you, you know, and then just leaves and tells him to fuck off. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It was a more positive movie than what I was used to seeing with female roles in the 80s, which tells you a lot about the 80s and what female roles were out there. So
That's fair.
I say watch it. It's free on Prime. For sure, watch it. If you have Paramount Plus or something else that Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls is streaming on, you know, watch it, comment back, tell me I'm nuts. If you don't think the plot is like pretty much a direct ripoff, or just tell me how mad you are that I made you watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. It's all good.
We have
And,
a email address now that people can actually email us
Yes.
at WTF podcast 79 at Gmail. So if you really want to have a worded letter and send us you know, love
Tell
or
us how you
hate.
destroyed your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
So
might
And what's that
respond.
address again? Can you give us that address one more time?
that is WTF podcast 79 at gmail.com.
Meanwhile, you can find Betsy and I also on Girls Ghost Ghouls podcast. Betsy is also the guild leader of the local Wenches Guild 73.
Yeah, Local 73 for the International Wenches Guild, based out of the Ohio Renaissance Festival.
Yep.
Excellent.
You can also find John Paul on Schlockfest. And obviously, what the fuck did I just watch? And Mike, you have Bum's Corner Coast to Coast. Your Island Sucks. And what else are you doing now?
It sounds like, and we just started another one called Imperfect Recall.
And
So
are
just-
you having another comic drawn up too?
I'm
I'm not stalking
very
you.
close to have another horror anthology ready. So actually, Jenny, you're 2 comics behind now of my stuff that you've read, but I should have it available. I'll definitely have it available at Space in May, but
Okay.
we may be throwing a release party before that if I can get everything to the printer on time.
All right. And why am I 2 comics behind? Why are you not keeping me updated?
I haven't seen you at a show in forever, and I don't want to go to the post office, so I don't have my stuff available
Okay, so
online.
just blame me for this then.
But once
All right.
this plague is over and we can go outdoors, I'll definitely get you a copy of everything I've written since the last time I saw you in person.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. So yeah, check everybody out. They're great podcasts and great comics and great horror anthologies. And Yeah, keep listening to us so you can pretend like, we can feel like we have value, I guess. And you can have somebody to blame for ruining your life. That's actually why we're here.
Hey, hold on. Nope, they love us. I just touched it. It worked. They love us.
Yeah, just
Oh,
like that.
wow.
Yeah, they love us. Yep. I felt it, and they do love us. So you don't have to worry, Jenny. They love us.
That's amazing.
I don't know what to do with love.
I'm just saying that's what I got when I touched the screen as they were enjoying this podcast. That they love us. So
Fair enough. And with that, we'll see you again.
Wow, are the credits rolling?
let's roll the credits.
You have been listening to
What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again soon.